you brought my brother in one time, and my brother was a real gregarious, outgoing, man's man kind of guy, talked a lot, and I was more passive, so I kind of was waiting for him to do the talking, so to speak. So to me, like he described how he was in life, after we settled some of those identifying, markers for him that I knew it was him. And you said that he was saying that some things had changed, that he was finding it more and more that he was listening more and observing more, and that he was preferring to talk about me and wanted to talk about me and hear about me. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I really believe she visited him.
He just wants you to know he knows how much you loved him.
And everybody in the room, their jaw just
knowing
dropped.
exactly what someone needs to hear.
That she called me when nobody really did.
It was incredible.
And then I was like, oh my God.
There's more after this life. This is Ripple Road.
This is Ripple Road. See, I have the announcer's voice too. Hey, what do you know about that? Welcome back. We're on episode 6 of Ripple Road. That's the ongoing story of me as a medium, how I came to be where I'm at. I hope you're enjoying the ride. It's always nice hearing feedback from people too. I'm going to keep including those. Hope you guys are enjoying that. We'll have a lot more on each episode as I'm recording more and more conversations with people. Throw it out to my Facebook group and my Instagram, and just looking for stories from people who were following me, and the response has been pretty good, so hope you're enjoying that aspect of the show too. It's been kind of a nice journey for me too, going back over my notes and reliving things. Helps put things into perspective. It's kind of an interesting take. I'm seeing that everything kind of does happen for a reason, and it's helping me get out of my head a little bit, stop worrying and overthinking, and see that it's all been quite the journey leading up to this point.
Well, a lot of people have had Psych 101, and we know about the first year life. We expect a 3-month-old to do this, and a 6-month-old, and a 10-month-old to 12 months. Kids start to walk, and then they start to understand expressive language and, just child development, and then the teenage years. But I say, what if we looked at development across the span of existence, to where when we transition from corporal reality into spirit, why would there not be a developmental leap there? That we've left behind some of the restrictions and obligations and beliefs that no longer we need or won't serve us as we move into leap into that next developmental phase of who we are. It's just another developmental leap.
This one experience, I was sitting in front of this mirror on my door, like a full-length mirror. So I'm on the ground, cross-legged, and I'm just staring into my eyes. Like I'm trying to keep eye contact with each eye on each eye. It's actually quite difficult to do and to keep your focus and to look beyond. This image started to appear, and it really was mind-blowing. The shape and the imagery was very ancient, and it reminded me kind of like those carvings on Aztec buildings and the images that you see within the Aztec culture, like sort of things curled into itself and all of that. So it was my face. In reality, what the image was made up of were these tiny little different shades of color that had intricate images inside of these little squares, building up this picture of my reflection. And I instantly knew that these little images were previous lives that I had lived. And, saying that sounds a little strange because it's like, oh, I've lived so many lives or whatever. But it was just like, I think we all come with this immense history that we don't have access to when we're so grounded, and in the day-to-day, we don't have connection with that. And the level of learning and depth that we as souls go through, we are really opening ourselves up to the possibilities and also engaging our imagination, because it's like it also opens this doorway to like experience understanding differently than we typically do.
And we left off in last episode. I was talking about going to Jan and Ken's for the Course in Miracles meeting group. Here we're getting into the years where I'm just starting to figure it out, how it works for me. And opening up psychically will produce all this extra phenomenon, you know? It's like a Harry Potter universe, and you go to Hogwarts and you take all these different classes. Are you an herbologist? Are you a potions master? You know, are you into premonitions? You take all the classes and you find your forte. You know, one of the people that used to come to the Course in Miracles every once in a while, who I just absolutely adored, was Kathy Crewcut, given the name because she had a crew cut. Hey, you know, simple times, right? But Kathy Crewcut, I don't know how to describe this. If you're in the same room with her and a group of people, you have an immediate sense that not everybody in that room is human. And that's Kathy Crewcut, man. She looks human, you know, she's got 2 arms and legs and 2 eyes and she speaks English, but if you're in her presence and you have abilities and you can sense things, her soul is not like ours, man. She is, she's beyond, man. When I started having astral projection experiences, I was able to talk to Crewcut about it, and, you know, she could do it at will. She was talking about, oh yeah, you can teach yourself this, and there's practices and there's techniques, and oh yeah, it's like a thing. But I never really got into cultivating astral projection on demand. It always happened to me like, whoops, slipped out of my body again. That's not good. But, you know, Crewcut was cool, man. She didn't always come to the Course in Miracles group, you know. I'd miss her like for a few months, and then happened to be there one night, and Crewcut came up to me, man, and she goes, you know, there's this other group that meets. They're called the Ground Crew. They would love you. I'm like, okay. She's like, no, you don't understand. You're a starseed. I'm like, oh, what? No, starseed. You never heard this? No, I never heard this, you know? And she goes on to describe like people who are here on Earth from another place, man, another dimension, and they're here to like advance the consciousness of humanity, right? Like there's the lower astral, the human animals, the first timers, the early bird specials here. You know, they're walking around with egos and hard to kick, hard to see out of the physical what you can measure. And then there's these other beings that are like, none of this reality is real. They're human beings just like anybody else, but their philosophy is different, and they see through reality, and they're intuitive. You know, and she's like, that's you, you're a starseed, you know, you got to go to the Ground Crew meeting. So she talked me into it, man. And, you know, I went over there, and it was a group of people. They'd been meeting once a week, kind of like Course in Miracles. Turns out in the 90s, there was a lot of like new age groups meeting in living rooms. I mean, this is a little bit before the internet, so you had to meet face to face, you know, it was like all these different meeting groups. And the Ground Crew, they were calling themselves that because they were part of this quote unquote like alien landing crew, right? Like they're this seeds of souls here on the planet that are aware and that are going to prepare the energy grid of planet Earth so that it would become in tune with the dimension that these aliens are coming from, to prepare the channel and the tunnel and the way so that the aliens could quote unquote land, you know, whether it was land their actual spaceships or like land in our dimension, be visible to us. That was the idea behind the Intergalactic Federation and the landing crew, the Ground Crew. So there were like little chapters of this all over the place. And turns out they had like this, I don't know what you call him, a leader or like a founder, I guess you'd say. His name was Sheldon Neidel. He lived in Hawaii, and he would send weekly updates, you know, sometimes twice a week. But you had to have the internet, you know, and a bunch of the people over at the local Ground Crew, none of them had access to these updates, you know. So Crewcut was like, I heard from Sue that you're, you know, really good with computers and stuff. Can you print that out? Oh yeah, sure. Give me the web address. Oh really? That would be great. Sure. So I get online and find this Sheldon Neidel and print out the Ground Crew updates every week, and I'd bring them over to the meeting group, you know. And sometimes it would be like drawings of spaceships. Sometimes it would describe the hierarchy of the intergalactic command and all this stuff, It's getting pretty far out there, It's wrapped into this rapture thinking. That's kind of a vein that runs through the whole New Age movement that goes back to like coining the term New Age. The whole idea of quote unquote New Age is this biblical apocalyptic, reckoning that there was going to be a shifting out of lower vibration and into the new heaven on earth that was like promised, the paradise, right? The dark days are over and then there's the new age, right? It's kind of an intoxicating concept, especially if you're not really digging on all of the societal norms and the work-a-day kind of rat race. If you're not into that, then you're looking for the new age, There's got to be another way. These systems of personal restriction and identity limitations, it's like, what's the human mind capable of? I mean, do you ever wonder, right? Like, I've wondered, so there I am at the ground crew,
And back to this whole thing of big questions that mankind has, the big questions that we're always asking, and we're a curious lot. I mean, we're continuously asking questions and wondering why. And without questioning, without pushing those limits, how things don't expand. And that's important for us. That's important for us human beings to grow, and to develop and to expand and to become more. And without that, I think when we get stuck or fall into a rut or the same old routine, oftentimes that's a major contributing factor in depressive episodes. So over the years, I've had a lot of people tell me stories about things that they were afraid to tell anybody else. So a lot of like angelic interactions for some of these people that they couldn't explain. They should have been in the car accident, or when they were in the car accident, they shouldn't have came out of it without a scratch, or other unexplained events, and including like experiences with extraterrestrials or UFOs. Another circle, people will preface this stuff with, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but I haven't ever thought that any of them ever were crazy. In fact, I pretty much, I would say almost 100% of the time felt that people were being authentic and honest, and there really was nothing to be gained by telling me this information except for them to feel heard and validated, and someone to confirm that, no, it's not insane, that there are a lot of phenomena, a lot of things that happen in our life experiences that are unexplainable." Another archetypal kind of label for them is pioneers. Possibly in the time that they're living, they're not as appreciated as they are down the road for their efforts or their viewpoints, and sometimes they're ridiculed. And in 30, 50, 100 years, who knows what people are going to be exploring or what is going to be possible. Here again, we go, like, the power of our beliefs and the realities that we create. So if if you follow that thread, if we're creating our reality, and if we open up more and more to some of these things that are considered fringe ideas or beliefs, how is that going to change everyday life down the road for people? Change, over time, expected norms, expected and understood and acceptable ways of thinking, behaving, and believing.
And I don't know if it was just the books I was reading, the people that I was talking to, or if it was that I was actually opening up psychically and kind of like, I don't know, like subconsciously, my mind was less blocking of the things that were there. So therefore now like an open channel was being created, but my dreams were just becoming more and more elaborate every night. 5 dreams, 6 dreams. I remember them all, full color, vivid, very realistic dreams. And I got books on dream interpretation, dream dictionaries. So anyway, I was having these crazy dreams, and Sometimes in my dreams, they'd be like very futuristic. Like I would pick up a magazine and it had the date of like 10 years later, you know? I saw like the house I was going to live in when I was old age, you know? And there's like a baby grand piano in this one room and I don't even play piano. Like, what does that mean? But it was real and it stuck with me and I'm like, that's going to happen one day. How do I know? I just know. It's like the visitation dream of my grandmother. I know it's real. I know it's her. I was starting to have these dreams that were different than regular dreams. And I'd go through all the dream books and read up on it, and they were becoming like remote viewing dreams, like where I'm viewing things from afar, and it gets into that astral projection stuff. Like I would have these dreams where I was floating out of my bedroom window and like I could see the siding of the house. It's dark out, it's moonlit. I could look down at the first floor and see like the gravelly cement. You know, I could see the street light and I would drift away and I'm looking down onto the vehicle in the driveway and I'm drifting and I'm looking at the street light and the pole, and then I look down the street, there's another pole, and if I like look down at that pole, then looking at it makes me move, and I move towards that pole, you know? And then I was getting like weird, like I'm really high up, like if something happens and I fell, but I guess I'm not gonna fall. And I kept trying to like get up high enough that I could follow like the streets. Otherwise, if you got up too high, you'd be above the treetops, and it got really scary. Like it's hard to tell where you are because everything, you know, from above, it's like you can figure it out if you keep your eye on the streets and like the bigger buildings, and then you could kind of find your way home, and that's okay. But sometimes I would get like really afraid of the electricity lines. Like I'm floating in this dream and I'm floating down my street and I'm aware that like the buzzing electrical lines, and they're like right at my face. And I'm like, I don't think I should be that close to this stuff, man. And then it would freak me out. And I'd like, all right, I got to go above the treetops. But then if I'm up above the treetops, it's a weird feeling because like your sense of balance, your XYZ axis, it gets all thrown off when there's just space and air to the left of you, to the right of you, above you, below you. It is very disorienting, you know? And I know for a fact that this sounds totally insane. I know that it does. But it was happening, you know? And I wasn't willing it to happen. It was just happening. I don't know if my psychic like soul was unfurling, my like spiritual identity was like coming online, and so my physical brain was like, whoops, can't keep him in the body, you know. But it was happening a lot. And one of the other weird things was I used to wake up in the room next door to my bedroom at my dad's house. There was a little computer room, you know, with all this junk and books piled up and old hardware and stuff, and I would kind of come to and be in that room and feel really tired and be like, what am I doing? Like, was I trying to go to the bathroom and ended up in the computer room? What am I doing? And then I would walk out the door in the hallway, walk down the hallway to my bedroom, like go into that room, and there's my body sleeping on the bed. And then I'd just black out, you know, that would be the end of the dream. And then, you know, come morning, I'd wake up and I'd be like, damn, it's that computer room dream again. What is happening? What is that? It happened enough times that I'm like, again? What is going on? And I finally figured it out. I had an old Claude Monet print, and there was a plate glass on the frame for the poster, and it was very reflective because the way my windows were and everything, that if I had drifted out of my body and saw my reflection in that glass poster print, I may have ended up going towards it like, oh, there I am. I need to go there. And if you go right there, it leads through the wall into the computer room. So as a test, because I'm crazy, I decided, well, No one's going to know why. I'm going to take that print down with the reflective glass. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take any reflective surfaces out of here, man. No mirrors, no picture frames with the glass on it that you can see a reflection. And then it never happened again. I never ended up in the computer room again. Did it work? It seems like it. Is it because of the theory that I think it is? I don't know, but coincidentally, it worked. So go figure.
You suggested to us to write down any questions or topics that we might want to cover. So while you were meditating to get in the zone, I started writing down 3 different topics that I hoped you would cover. And you actually covered each topic in order that I wrote it. Yeah, and I didn't ask any questions or anything. I just remember kind of writing notes, and then later when I looked back at my notes, I saw that you had touched on every topic in the order that I wrote it in. Yeah, but so since you read me in that first reading with that stuff, like I was so focused on that, and I don't know, I just never really dwelled on the fact that you told my cousin to stay alive. Like I think because I thought that maybe, that was that. Like you said it, and like that was, that was it. And so like, it was still like shocking when it actually happened. We did the reading in November, and then he died in May. But again, like it wasn't like we were like waiting for something to happen. Like in March, we actually went on a family trip together to London. When we said goodbye in the airport, because we were on different flights, I remember like getting kind of emotional saying goodbye to him. And I don't know if like a part of me kind of knew that was going to be the last time. Not my conscious self, but another part of me. And so, I was like, I don't want to say goodbye. I was hugging him for a long time. And he goes, don't worry about it. Like, I'll see you soon. And that was the last time I saw him. A little bit after he died, I did have some dreams where I had like visitations from him, and in one of my dreams we were walking and talking, and he after we were done talking, he was getting ready to leave, and he's walking away from me, and I said goodbye, and he didn't turn around, and I was like, oh, see you later, and he turned around and smiled at me, and he's like, see you later, and walked off, and I woke up. Yeah. So it was just kind of crazy, that connection to when I like actually said goodbye to him here, and kind of that foreshadowing of like, it's not really goodbye. It's just until next time, like see you later. I've always been kind of spiritually in tune, I guess, but I feel like it skyrocketed after, because just with that connection of like having someone close to me and then like reach out to me in different ways, it kind of opened me up more to being more aware of more than just what's right in front of me.
I got really into this stuff, and I felt like I was opening up psychically, and I was getting interested in other channeled information. There was this whole thing about Mount Shasta in California, and somebody like contacting Saint Germain. There was this group called I Am America that was all about earth changes, and they had channeled a map of the future of planet Earth after the climate changes. What is it going to look like? And they had the Mississippi River was opening up and like splitting the Americas into 2 and all this. It was this crazy thing. I'm like, I got to buy that map. And I had that on the wall. I mean, it was like supposed to be happening in, I don't remember, 97, 99. I forget the date now. But I know that in our time, looking backwards, it was supposed to have had already happened, right? So like, what, was that channeled information inaccurate? And this is where it gets into a real learning moment, I keep saying like, you can go pretty far out with this psychic phenomenon, but you have to measure it by its usefulness here in the physical. What are we really here for? If we're souls in the material world, this planet Earth, and we're here to love each other, and it's this amazing experience, is it to like leave the thing? Is it to, I don't know, drop acid and have some hallucinatory experience of like the other dimensions? Like, all right, maybe get a glimpse of it. Like this guy Alan Watts once said, it's like you get the call from God, take it, and then, use the information. Hang up the phone. Don't just keep dropping acid. It's like still to this day, they're legalizing all these drugs. People are all over the internet talking about these spiritual experience they had. There's like ayahuasca. People are like, there's machine elves, and I can see the creatures that control reality. Okay, all right. Is it true? Fine if it's true. I don't know if it is or not, but like the point isn't whether it's true or not. The point is, what's the usefulness of it, man? There's a reason I think I myself have to stay grounded, because these years got a little far out for me and a little creepy. Okay. Remember talking about the ground crew, the landing crew, the Intergalactic Federation? Kathy Crewcut had me going there, and I was printing out those updates from Sheldon Neidl, the landing crew weekly updates, and I was bringing them over. Well, she had told me, she's like, you're really important when you print out those things on the internet and bring them over. We make photocopies and send them to the other chapters all up and down the East Coast. I heard there's ones that go as far as North Carolina that you had printed out. I'm like, really? She's like, I told you, you're a starseed. So, I was reading up on these things every week. Sheldon Neidl would pass them out, and it was getting pretty hokey and far out. I thought, I'm going to break away from this particular group. Jan and Ken's is one thing, but the ground crew, that's another thing. So I included a cover letter to Sheldon Neidl's update this week, and I said, this is the last update I can print, and here's why I'm philosophically opposed to this. You're not living in the moment and learning about yourselves. Look, if there really is going to be a new age on Earth, this new dimensional awareness where we're contacting these other beings and everything, don't you think the ultimate highest being is the presence that's underneath material reality? It springs forth with life. It's the very essence of the seed of life within you that's manifesting your physical world. Don't you think being in that physical world is like God speaking to you? What higher power is there than that? So that was it for me. I remember when the update started talking about the comet. They were talking about this comet that was coming, and that the aliens were going to be like board this spaceship cloaked as a comet. That's around the time I got out of it. So if you're familiar with history at all, Heaven's Gate was a group of over 40 people who committed mass suicide to join the aliens behind Hale Bopp. It wasn't my chapter, I was in New Jersey, but these are people that ended their life here on Earth.
My mom at the time she had a back surgery, and so she was in a rehab facility. But they had started working with her in speech therapy, and which just seemed, they seemed weird, like why are they, but she couldn't get the words, and it was really, really bothering her. She's just like, I'm thinking, is she having dementia? Is this some type of stroke? Is it like that they were working with her in the rehab, even though she was there for her back. And I'd gone to one of your readings, and it's funny because my mom's name being Wanda, it's like as soon as you hear Wanda, you're like, oh God. So you're walking by and you're like, Wanda. And you said, what's going on with her speech? And you had said that she has like a guardian angel or a soul that when she's in times of distress, it hovers very close to her, and that this soul had never been incarnated. So it really doesn't like speak our normal English language. And when it gets close, kind of protecting and caring for her, it's jumbling her speech. And it's just kind of there. And that it was really, nothing you'd even kind of made reference to somewhat being of an alien form. But then I know you're like, people don't buy it, I'm not going there. Let me just say it's an energy that's never been incarnated. And it's been with her for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And that's all it was. It was nothing to worry about. I myself have known that my mom's lifestyle has been a little risky, and there's 4 times I know of that she really shouldn't have made it. So I did tell her afterwards, and she totally jumped. She's like, no, there's several times that I just know something is getting me out of situations that or saving, it's just she's aware of this energy. Really amazing.
It is so interesting and makes you think about labels, how accurate are any of those. And then it made me start thinking, well, is it different if somebody has schizophrenia and it started when they're 5? Is that really schizophrenia? I don't think it is. Something else spiritual going on. And along those lines, I have the 2 grandsons. The one would go behind the door and talk to his grandma who passed. And you told us that there's a portal there. He's done it so much. And so he is now 13. He was little then. He's 13 and he still is able to feel the presence, and he talks to his family that's passed. There's no sign of mental illness. No one even thinks that, and he doesn't tell anyone except for his mother and I. And for a while he didn't want us to talk about it because I guess it was embarrassing to a teen. But as he's getting older, I think he's better with it. Like the other day, he said he and his mom were on the stairway and she went, "Oh, what was that?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry, that's just grandma."
The good thing is that I still had access to Jan and Ken Deans, that they were still doing the Tuesday night Course in Miracles group. So if I was having like really wacky things happen, I always knew that I could go over on Tuesday nights, do the meditation that Ken was doing, go through the Course in Miracles book lesson, and then have the tea and the coffee and the cookies and talk to Jan if I got a second and tell her and be like, what do you make of this? It was like a little spiritual base camp for me. Okay. Like things were happening in my dreams that I don't really talk about too much. Like, for example, one time I was laying in bed. I must have been asleep for only an hour or two. I was in deep sleep and I sensed all of these like heightened beings standing around my bed. It was like, at Jan and Ken's, they're like these spirit guides and ascended masters. And it was like that. It was like these really high vibrational beings. And they were like aiming energy into my body. Like I could feel my body surge all of a sudden, like, and it woke me up. And I was like, what the hell? What? Like, how do you explain that? Is your brain just misfiring? So I went, back to sleep. I mean, it's the middle of the night, so I didn't have a hard time getting back to sleep. Like 20 minutes later, I'm asleep. And it's happening again. They're standing around my bed, surge of energy. And as I was waking up, my body felt like, look, I was there, you weren't, but it was levitating off the top of the bed. My whole body was up in the air. And as I was waking up, it's like they realized it and they stopped ascending my body and they sat me back down. But in midair, I kind of sat up a little bit. So when I sat down, I was on the edge of my bed with my feet on the ground, sitting there and okay, if I was asleep and I woke up and I sat up and I pivoted and put my legs down, I think I would remember that, right? But what I remember is that I levitated, there was these beings around me, and then it sat me back down. Who the hell's going to believe that story? So it gets to a point of break from reality, right? Like here's the thing. There's a level of understanding that we're operating on here that once you travel beyond a threshold of understanding, you lose credibility, right? Like I could be telling you this and I had you all the way up till this episode, but now you're listening to this episode and you're like, maybe I don't want to listen to this guy anymore because he sounds like a lunatic. So you lose credibility, right? It could be so far out of your understanding that now you've got to fit it into what you know. So you say, well, sure, he may have mediumship abilities, but he also has schizophrenia because clearly levitation's not real and I tend to agree with you. I mean, I don't know. There's stories of old Taoist monks that levitated, and is that true? I don't know, man. I just know my experience, and it does get into this break from reality thing where I myself have wondered.
Rudy told me a few years ago he went to a thing over at Gateway High School. Some guy just stopped him out of the random. He goes, you got an uncle that was abducted by aliens. He told Rudy, right? He said he's got an implant in him. It allows him to hear frequencies or be in tune with certain frequencies, it said. When I was on Billings Avenue and I woke up in the attic, that night when I woke up from that attic, I was never so scared in my life. I was praying for God. I was like, God, please help me. I was scared to death. When I got out of that attic, I went right back to bed and went right to sleep. To this day, I have no fear of them. It's so bizarre. Like, I try to explain it to people because I was in such a panic that night. I was in a panic, like fearing for my life kind of panic, and was able to go right back to sleep. Woke up next day, and to this day, if they were to pull up the land out here in the yard, I'd probably walk right up to them. They did trigger something in me that don't allow me to be scared of them. That's the only way I could describe it. I woke up one floor above my bed, directly over my bed, like where I would have been laying in my bed, but I was laying on the floor. If they had put me in my bed, I probably would have just woke up in my bed, looked around and went right back to sleep and never knew what happened. I was freaked out, I probably would have just woke up in my bed in a little bit of a panic and thinking I had a nightmare and went back to sleep or something. But that night they screwed up, and that's the only reason I'm aware of it.
So there was this one week where I had this crazy dream again, where I was like in this other dimension. It was like I was on board some kind of spaceship or something, but it was also my bedroom. So it was like overlapping realities. They were both inhabiting the same physical space. And there was like this big wall of information, like almost like a chalkboard or something, right? But it was like going through really quick all these different symbols and information and words, and I realized like they're feeding it to me, like I'm absorbing, like in the movie The Matrix, where he's like, "You're gonna teach me kung fu," and then it would be like he gets downloaded. It was like a download into my subconscious brain. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, man, I had some weird dreams last night. And I went about my day, because I was always having weird dreams. The very next night, in the middle of the night, I'm having another dream. I'm back on that spaceship. There's that blackboard thing again. And then I realized, hold on, this is the second night in a row. This is 2 nights in a row now. What is going on? There's like deliberately, like, I don't know, upgrading my soul or something. Weird, right? Night number 3, middle of the night, having another dream, back aboard the spaceship. Now I'm becoming very lucid. Now I'm like holding in the dream and going, hold on, this is 3 nights in a row. What's happening? And this being approached. It was a woman. She was an alien, but like not, like you could draw an alien, like a little green man or like big eyes or something. No, nothing like that. It was like an etheric being, like an enlightened, I don't know, ascended spirit master or something. And I said, "Who are you?" And she said, "Queen something." And the name she gave me was unpronounceable, but it was like Aeolia or something. And I couldn't quite grab it, but I knew she told me her name. So I was like, "Where are we?" And she said, "We're coming to you through Sedona." And I was like, Sedona? See, now I didn't know there's a Sedona, Arizona. I know that now. But actually in my mind at the time, I thought she meant like somewhere in Palestine or Jordan. Sedona sounds like one of those ancient Mesopotamian cities like in Israel or Iraq or something, like Sedona. So that's what I thought she meant. I was like, oh, I'm going to look that up later, see where that is in the world. Anyway, it was that day when I woke up was Tuesday. So I'm like, man, I'm going to Jan and Ken's tonight. So I get over there, it's a good crowd. I got my little spot on the sofa because I got there early. And out on the coffee table, there's a book. And there's never a book on the coffee table. And the book is Sedona, Psychic Energy Vortexes. And I go, hey, Jan, what's this book? And she goes, oh, you want to borrow it? And I'm like, I mean, what is it though? She's like, oh, I felt the need to pull it out. It must have been for you. Something told me to pull it out and put it there. And I'm like, I literally just had a dream and heard the name Sedona. And she goes, there you go. So I brought the book home and devoured it, man. And it actually said that there was an alien race in the time of like ancient Atlantis, whatever. They left planet Earth and they buried their like power crystals in this vortex in Sedona, Arizona. Okay. I didn't even freaking know what Sedona was, and I'm having a dream about aliens, and I asked who you were and where you're coming from, and they said, we're coming to you through Sedona, and now there's a book that says aliens, drop power crystals in Sedona. What the hell? Come on. Like, you gotta be kidding me. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. So again, it's what level of understanding are you at? It's bending my reality. I don't even believe in it. You know what I mean? It happened to me, but you got to just sweep that one under the bed, man, because what are you going to do with that, right? It's crazy. So I hope if you're out there listening, you're enjoying these entertaining stories. Please know that I'm not insane. I'm sane enough, okay, to like know the difference. So it's that uncultivated, raw psychic stuff. If you're getting into that, if someone in your family or your child or your brother or sister or anybody that you know is getting into this stuff, buyer beware, man. You have to cultivate it. You got to go to the Hogwarts castle and you got to take the classes on everything because you're going to have a specialty and it's going to really kind of gel with you. The astral projection stuff didn't gel with me. I didn't do it, but the mediumship did. And that's where I went. And since then, this other phenomenon stopped happening.
I know you've studied and read A Course in Miracles. I was first introduced to the Course like in 2007. And again, just even then to think or even to talk about it with people because, the source of the Course, Helen Schuckelman, who's Jewish, and Jesus appears to her and says, he wanted her to write out what he was telling her. And Helen was like, yeah, who's going to believe this? I mean, people are going to think I'm crazy. Here I am Jewish. I'm a university professor. Well-lettered, well thought of, and Jesus is talking to her. So now the Course is studied all over the world. I forget in how many countries. I mean, but back in the 70s, I'm sure it would have raised a lot of eyebrows for a lot of people, and probably still does to some degree. Enough so that in 2007, I wasn't running around telling everybody about A Course in Miracles. I was just reading a passage, and I can't tell you exactly where it's located in the Course, but where Jesus talks about that some people aren't ready for a healing. If a healing would produce too much fear, or in terms of what you've been saying, if it's too much of a leap psychologically, then they're not ready. They're not ready for it, and that's okay.
This gets into some things like there's a little gray area on some topics, like channeling. I use that word channeling because that's what I feel that I'm doing, but I think it's classically understood to mean like channeling this higher entity. And even Jan Dean at the Course in Miracles would occasionally give messages. She would channel. And when she channeled, she went into this like altered state, her eyes are closed and glazed over. And she would change her voice and bring through her channeled spirit called Bridget, who was this like sassy young Irish girl, Was it just the same as like Jan channeling her higher self and spirit guides before? Why do we need Bridget? I don't know. Did it allow her to bring out a sense of her personality that was more playful and like she didn't have to be the spiritual guru. Now she can be like brash and use vulgarity if she wanted and just be like this sassy Irish gal that like she wasn't permitting herself to be. So it's like a fractured part of her personality. Like maybe, look, I love Jan, and that kind of hit a wall with me where I was like, I don't know. I don't know, I watch her take on this other form and channel Bridget, and I don't know, It's like even Ken, one of his spirit guides was Chief Joseph. So I'm like, wait, is Ken really connecting to the Chief Joseph, it starts to like, it's like somebody in a past life saying, I was Cleopatra. Like, y'all can't be the same thing. Like, that don't really make sense. But I guess maybe there's something that we don't know. Like, maybe it's like all available in this soul pool before you come into life. You can put on these robes and make it look like your past life so it guides your current life. And maybe everybody keeps pulling out the same wardrobe of Cleopatra. And so when they're alive, they think they were her. Maybe, I don't know. Past life regression, it's like that. It's like, is it just escapism from this reality? Does it allow you, like, psychologically to go down an avenue that you don't allow yourself in this life, right? You are like, I was this great thing in a past life, because in this life you don't feel like a great thing. So in the past life, it allows you this matrix in your imagination to like sense and feel what it was like to be there. And then maybe it puts it into sharper relief that you're not there now. And then what? You get depressed and then you want to escape into that past life? Or can you be like, oh, I did that already. I was the, king of whatever. And so I have that power now. Then it empowers you. Well, then that's good. See, if it helps you to become a better person now, then that's very good therapy, right? If you're interested in the past life thing, I would absolutely 1,000% check out the books by Brian Weiss. He really pioneered this in his counseling sessions, in his therapy sessions. Really fascinating stuff. Check him out, man.
I got a tattoo in his honor, along with other members of my family. We all got kind of memorial tattoos, and a month or so later, I got a second one, and both of them are on my ankles. And so we did a reading in January, and of course I'm wearing boots, you can't see them. And you brought up the fact that I had gotten a tattoo. And I said, yeah, I actually have two. And you were like, yeah, but one was just on a whim. The second one was a whim. The first one actually was like meaningful. And that was supposed to be kind of a new life philosophy to refer to, because I got an infinity symbol with a heart in it and my cousin's initials. And you even said in the reading that my cousin sends his infinite love to everybody. So, yeah.
You had told my friend a few years ago that, her brother, her twin brother who had passed, he would be present at her wedding, and there would be he would let her know he was there through an alarm system or some type of, emergency action. Everything was going to be fine. It wasn't going to be a problem. And when we were all at the rehearsal dinner, we were all sitting at the rehearsal dinner, and all of a sudden, every fire alarm in the building started going off. The manager came over and said, you all have to evacuate, but nothing's wrong. All of our codes here are fine. We don't have anything wrong, but you have to evacuate as the protocol. And we all kind of just looked at each other and got chills.
And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we hear, good morning, plain as day. And we both looked at each other, and I said, did you hear that? And he said, yeah, I heard it. So he gets up, he's running out front, seeing if anybody's walking by. And I'm like, no, Howard, it was right here. He's like, it was right here. But I don't know if that was just to aware him that there are things in the world. Like, creepy. I've never experienced anything like that before.
One dream that I had that stood out, and I'm dead certain it's from a past life. I just know it. I was walking. It was in northern China. It was very mountainous. It was like Mongolian invasion type time, So what is that, 1200s? And I just remember this scene coming around this path where like this gorge opened up, and I could see beyond where the path was leading this beautiful temple along the mountainside. And when you emerged from around this corner of this one kind of craggy rock, you saw the whole vista. And it was breathtaking. And in the dream, I remember I had traveled very far, and that was going to be my new home. I felt total sense of awe, but it felt like I was going there permanently. Like that was going to be my home.
The past life regression was like, okay, you're going to see a life that, like you lived once and how you died. And you and I went back. It was really hard for me to let go of my mind. I do remember having clear visions of a life as a princess or a queen, but like someone that was trapped in this home. that was really interesting because it wasn't like, oh, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that, like you're leading me. No, it was like a totally internal experience where afterwards, you know, like you guided me into a meditation and then you're like describing what kind of life I would see. And then the details of that life were like all inside. And then you like, I'm going to lead this and tell you what I saw. You were like, so did you see yourself with those golden locks and all tied, like put up in a, like this beehive hairdo and like, you're like, it felt like you were a Russian princess or something. And I was like, how the fuck, did you just see everything I just saw? Like, what?
The thing about past lives is if you're going to get into this stuff, how do you validate it? How do you even know that it's legitimate? You know, I've run regression circles before. Someone will say, I was the Virgin Mary. I mean, it's very doubtful, right? Like percentage-wise, probability-wise. So I'm like, okay, can you describe that for me? And as she's describing it, I'm sort of psychically opening up, like I'm going to do a reading on her. And I'm realizing that what actually happened was this lady was a nun in this convent where they just prayed to the Virgin Mother every day to like assume her compassion, take on her energy, and sort of like become them, model their lives on the Virgin Mary, right? And so very successfully, she had taken this vow of silence and had kind of subsumed the personality of Mary into herself. So when we're doing a past life regression, she's being struck with these images of the Virgin Mother. And that's what she thinks she was. So it's like, okay, we were able to talk it out and figure that one out. But there have been other anomalies that I've seen where they're just, I'm not sure, you know? It's like I try to bring somebody into a past life regression and now they're in the future. They're in a future life. Is that even possible? Maybe. I mean, time on the other side's different. Are all lives already lived? It gets really weird, you know? I don't know what to make of it.
And this was a little bit unexpected for me. But you started talking about my past life. And, you know, you said, wow, you were a Native American in your past life. You said, I can see where you live. And you described it so beautifully, as if you were looking at a painting. You described these beautiful streams flowing with water and life and color. And that I lived there with my family and this woman who was the love of my life. And I guess this was being around the time of the settlers coming. You were talking about how I was on this horse and I was riding. You could start to see a little bit of discomfort as you were talking about it. You know, it started touching on your chest. You kept pounding on your chest like there's something happening here. Your chest is on fire. It's burning. And you said, oh, my God. You were hitting the chest and you were blown off of your horse and you're just laying there. You're just laying there on the ground and all you're thinking about is her, you know, and her and wanting her safety and and nobody knew this, but I'm freaking tingling in my seat. I just unbuttoned my shirt at that point and I exposed the tattoo on my chest of the Native American skull, and everybody in the room, their jaw just dropped at that moment because I have this, you know, skull of this Native American Indian headdress with a skull. And that exact same spot that you were touching on your chest, you were describing that distress in your chest.
Now, this whole time that I'm like opening up psychically, I mean, I'm keeping journals, but I'm actually starting to do more readings also. So I went to this certified hypnotherapist, and his name was Robert Egby. He was also a trained medium, you know, so he was very spiritual. Robert Egby was hosting a psychic development workshop. So I went to one, you know, and people came from all over the area. You know, there was a good group of us, and he had us do all these different exercises. One of them was like psychometry, reading of objects. So we would all drop our car keys or some, piece of jewelry or something into a bowl, and you'd pass it around and you'd pick something out, and then you'd hold it in your hands. And as we meditated, he would guide you to receive images and impressions, right? Is this a man or a woman? Is it old or young? Do you get any names? How do you feel holding this? Do you see any visions? Where does this person live? Can you see their house? Can you see what it looks like? Can you see how far away it is? And we're like remote viewing the people that we're holding the objects of, remote view from there, tag into like, this is what it looks like when you open your front door. This is the way the room is situated. Here's the couch. There's the windows. If you go back, the kitchen looks like this. There's a stairwell back there that's never used. And but like, you can get into remote viewing. Hey, that's another class at Hogwarts, right? There are people really good at that. Hey, if you want to look into that, YouTube's quite the rabbit hole. There's a lot of remote viewing stuff out there. CIA documents, KGB stuff. Is it real? Is it not? I don't know, man. I got some pretty accurate results. But anyway, this psychic development workshop, Egby had us pair off into groups to read each other. And there was a gentleman there that I was paired off with, and he was attempting to read me, and he was bringing through like spirit guides and stuff. But he told me, you should take your shoes and socks off when you do readings. I'm like, right? I know. I'm so much more comfortable. And he's like, no, I feel like very impressed to tell you that your guides work better with you when you're barefoot. And from then on, man, you didn't need to sell me any further. I was like, this dude is legit. I'm totally believing this. So I do barefoot readings that's it. I actually, I think coming out of that development circle, it was the first time I ever made a business card. And I think I might have even put on there, Scott Henry, the barefoot psychic. You know, barefoot psychic. What a tagline. I mean, we're looking at, what is this, 97, 98, you know? So yeah, I came through a lot of phases with that. There was a time where I was sort of advertising my services and I was going to like do readings for people. I would go to the hair cuttery, get my hair cut. And as I'm sitting there, I would say, so, hey, listen, I just went to this psychic medium development workshop where it's teaching me to do readings. Would you mind if I'm like, try you as a guinea pig and see if we can do a reading? And, you know, you'd get a laugh, you know, they usually chuckle and be like, I don't believe in that stuff, but try it anyway. So I would, you know, and I'd be like, is your father John? And what's the Vietnam thing? Okay, wait, for real? She's like looking around the room. Who told you that? I'm like, I'm telling you. She's like, oh my God, you know, Shelly, did you hear what this guy said? You know, meanwhile, my haircut's all freaking jacked. You know what I mean? Like, hey, comb, hey, scissors, yo, focus, you know, don't do a practice reading on the person cutting your hair. Good advice. It became kind of a thing, you know. I was getting more comfortable talking about it. And the judgment was still there, the skepticism, the hostility. At 21, 22 years old, you know, other 21, 22-year-old guys, none of them ever want to talk about like spirituality, you know, ghost, psychic, mediumship. Might as well talk about the alien stuff because it's all in the same bucket of crazy to them, you know? So I was still kind of coping with all of that socially. Usually, I like to be looked at like a regular person and not be stared at like there's a second head coming off of my shoulder and is about to chew off my real head, and you're looking at me in sheer terror and horror because the crazy is so palpable, right? I actually want to be relatable, right? I want people to like walk to me like I'm a normal guy, because when people are at ease, I read them better and I'm at ease. I absorb energy, you know? I'd rather that. So all of this crazy stuff, I don't know. I guess I'm more interested in the therapeutic stuff and the personal relations that we have here, our ability to love one another and love ourselves. That's really interesting to me personally. So this other stuff, it's like, okay, it's an interesting aside, but I just wanted to put that in there so you know, like, I'm letting myself talk about this, but I'm very self-conscious about it, you know? So if you're into this kind of thing, just go ahead and hit track back and replay. That's it. Done with the aliens. We're out of here now. Okay, let's get back to planet Earth. So that'll wrap it up for this episode. One of the things I've done now is I put on some bonus content for each episode. So check out rippleroadpod.com and scroll down to bonus content. For this episode, you'll see things like that Earth Changes map, more information on Heaven's Gate, photographs, book links, all kinds of extras. And you can even go back and revisit each previous episode where I've added bonus content to all of that too. You want to check out the full song to my mom's Ride a Wild Horse? There it is. It's a catchy tune. And you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Scott Edward Henry. Thanks again for listening. Tune in next week and we won't be as far out. We'll reel it back in a little bit. How about that? Thanks again. Be cool.